All right, folks, here we are with Excel Chapter 2, Mid-Level 2. This one's called Smartphone. It involves a little bit of, involves a new formula related to loan payments, and we get to make this sheet from scratch. So you should not be alarmed when you open up the sheet and see that there's nothing there. So step one, I'm done because I have my sheet open. Step two, we are going to rename sheet one Flex Pay. So I'm going to right click on the sheet name and rename Flex Pay. So that's it for step two. Step three, type Flex Pay Calculator in cell A1. Okay, Flex Pay Calculator. And then it's telling us to merge and center the title on the first row in A1 to C1. All right, so A1 to C1, merge and center. Apply bold 20-point font size. Okay, bold. I'll just click this to get to 20. And then blue accent 1 as the font color. All right, so I think that's this one here. There we go. It runs off the end of the cell, but we're not to worry about that yet. So we're done step three. Step four, merge and center the range A2 to C2. All right, A2, C2, merge. Type inputs. All right, inputs. And then apply, so I'll hit enter to get out of editing. Apply thick outside border. All right, so that's in the border menu here. Thick outside border. All right. Says note Mac users apply thick box border. Okay, so that's your solution on a Mac, folks. Next, step five. So we're done step four. Step five, type APR and number of payments in the range A3 to A4. So A3, we'll type APR, and then A4, we'll type number of payments. So done step five. Step six, type 1.75% in B3. All right, so B3, 1.75%. And then type 36 in B4. Okay, B4, 36. And then merge and center the range A6 to C6 and then type outputs. Okay, so A6 to C6, merge and center, type outputs. And then apply a thick outside border. So that's the same as before. So since that's the last one I used, I can just click the main button again and it works. That's it for step six. In step seven, type model in A7, model. Type price in B7 and payment in C7. All right, so just adding some heading titles, that's fine. Step 8, type iPhone X in A8. All right, iPhone X. Then Samsung Galaxy in A9. Okay, Galaxy. And then in A10, LG V30. Enter the corresponding prices, $9.49, $7.99, and $6.50 in B8 to 10. Okay, so $9.49, and then $7.99, and then $6.50. All right. Apply currency number format. All right, so I'll highlight those and choose currency from my number format. And resize column A as needed to display all the text. So one of the little shortcuts here is if you put your mouse between the two columns at the end of column A, your cursor will change. And if you double click, it'll automatically resize so everything in that column fits and doesn't run over the edge. That also happened to fix up our title. So we're good there. Done step 8. Step 9, we're going to introduce a new formula. So we are going to go into C8 and enter a payment function. So the payment function takes your interest rate, your number of payments or periods, and and the loan value and figures out what the payment has to be over that time period. So to do a payment, you're going to do equals PMT, parentheses, and then you have to start filling it out. So one thing I should note is that when you're filling out this formula, you fill it out based on annual, it defaults to annual numbers. However, we are calculating monthly payments. So when we choose our rate, which is here, 175, that's the annual rate, but we need to have the monthly rate. Well, to go from annual to monthly, you divide it by 12, okay? This is a bit of a finance thing, and we can talk about more of this in class. Next, we need the NPER, means number of periods. So there is 36 payments involved, so that's what we choose there. So this would be a 36-month loan, which is 3 years. So this is already turned into months. We've turned our rate into months, so now it's all the same. So we're done with that. We'll hit a comma. Then it wants the PV, which is your present value. So the price that you're getting a loan for would be that, 949. Our future value, so what would the value be when you're done paying the loan? Well, that would be 0. And then lastly, the type is when are you making the payments? Are you doing it the beginning of the month or the end of the month? In most cases, it will be the 0 or end of the period. You can double click that. It would tell you if it's going to be the beginning of the period. So I'll double click that and I'll close my parentheses. Now what you may notice is I'm going to have to fill this down later, and my reference here is good to move because it'll pick up the prices of the other two types of phones. However, the rate needs to stick and the number of payments needs to stick. So I'm going to go back and click on my rate and use F4 to lock that in with an absolute reference. And I'm going to do that for the number of payments as well and lock it in. Now that I've done that, I can hit enter and I'll notice that it's in a negative number. That's because these financial calculations or formulas are based on cash flow. And if you're paying down a loan, money's going out. So that's why it's a negative. So all you have to do is go to your formula, click between the equals and the PMT, and put a minus sign. And that'll flip the formula. So now I have a positive number. Okay. So the last thing we have to do in this step is use the fill down to fill it for each of the other phones. And now we have our step 9 completed. We know what the payment would be for each of these phones if you borrowed the money to buy them. Next, in step 10, we're going to type highest payment, average payment, lowest payment in A12 to 14. All right, so A12 is here. Highest payment, average payment, and lowest payment. And then we're going to go to B12, so that's here, and use the max function to calculate the highest flex payment. Okay, so equals max. I'm going to highlight my payments. It will pull out the maximum. Next, I'm going to do average using the average formula. Highlight and then close parentheses. And then lastly, lowest would be min. Highlight the numbers, close parentheses, and finish that off. So that is step 10. Oh, sorry, step 10 and 11. We're done. So the last thing we need to do is add a footer with our name, sheet code, and file name. So I'm just going to do it the other way from when I did the other mid-level. I'm going to go to the page setup dialog, header and footer tab, custom footer, and type in my name. Oop, put in my last name as well. Sheet code using that button, file code using that button, hit OK and OK. And that is done for step 12. Now you're good to save your workbook. We are done mid-level exercise 2.